This is the Simpit. I'm your host, Shaun Cole, and welcome to our very first episode of the Sim Tunnel. The Sim Tunnel is really our open forum chat for a single or multiple topic discussions about sim racing. This is going to be different than our daily news, where we're going to talk about those very specific topics, but it's more like the opportunity to get some of our feelings, some of our thoughts, some of even our pet peeves about our industry out. And I think about me in my personal life, real life. I don't have a lot of sim racing friends. With the show, of course, I have thousands of sim racing friends. But when I think about my home personal life, I can't talk about VR or the latest patch or build with any of my friends. They just don't care. So I figured this was a great opportunity. And growing up, I was a huge fan of Dave Despain and Wind Tunnel. If you saw my thumbnail for this show, you see that I'm influenced heavily by Dave Despain. So I just thought that format worked really well for me joining with my sim racing friends and being able to talk about various topics. And again, sometimes it might even get to the point of being able to air our pet peeves or our grievances with the industry at times. So during a review, I'm always going to be more politically correct. During the news, we're going to be very formal about getting through the news. But today's show, the whole point of the Sim Tunnel is to take it back a step, relax a little bit, and be able to openly talk about various topics. So today's topic, I did use a little bit of a clickbait on the topic, is do you believe the hype? And I'm going to get to that topic in one moment, but I do want to lay out the land for what we're going to be doing moving forward. And I want to welcome all of you who are here in the topic, and I hope you'll be very vocal in typing in your thoughts on our topic as we move. Did I buy Dave's desk off of eBay? I don't know. I don't know Dave's desk, but this is my cheapo desk. It'll be good enough for this show, at least to get things going. And over time, we'll probably make changes to this show in both format and our set and everything, and we'll adjust based on a lot of your opinions. Like, number one, I'm on a different microphone. Hopefully this isn't blowing out your eardrums. Hopefully it sounds good, and hopefully it'll work well for this show. So getting back to the Sim Tunnel and my intentions moving forward, today I didn't bring on any special guest. You are the guest. You are the Simpit pit crew. If you get vocal and input on our topic, I would appreciate it much, and you are definitely part of the crew helping this show move along. But in the future, I'll probably bring in guests. So like next week, this may be our topic, I don't know, but VR, is that the future of sim racing? Maybe I'll bring somebody in who has a really strong opinion on VR so that we can talk about it and both of us can interact with you guys and answer questions as well. So, okay, thank you, John. I appreciate that. No tie. I said this is going to be the informal show, the big one. So we just, Dave Despain's. No, he has a very fancy desk. We're doing this casual. I'll probably do something like get the microphone off the desk so I don't make noise, because I will have to do some clicking and things. And Sin Yaz, you prefer a sim pit than a sim tunnel. Is that a play on words joke, or are you saying you aren't a big fan of the live shows? Either way, that is discussion that we can bring up as well. So let's start off with the topic, and I do have a few things to talk. Actually, scratch that. Before we get to the topic, this show was going to be yesterday at 10 a.m. And yesterday at 10 a.m., Fanatec, that was the big story of the day. And this isn't the news, but when I think about the hype, I do want to come back to Fanatec in this whole thing, because I actually am going to applaud them on what they've done marketing-wise, timing-wise, and how they've played this whole release of information and news on the direct drive wheel. All of the hype for that wheel has actually been done by us, the community. And Marcos, you are right on track with where I'm thinking. So let's lay out what I'm thinking and why I thought of this show. The big four games right now are all in the works or have just come out. And by the big four, I mean Codemasters F1 2017, Project Cars 2, Forza, and Gran Turismo. And these are the big four based on total overall sales. These are the biggest gateway drugs, if you will, to our sim racing world. So if we are all driving Assetto Corsa, iRacing, R-Factor 2, the highest levels of sim racing, let's face it, we are on the high end of the spectrum. Forza, Gran Turismo, F1 2017, and maybe even Project Cars all fall into that category. So my point, and where my aggravations come, I've watched this world evolve a bit. I've seen some changes in society and how things are done. In the movie industry is where I first saw where there is like this correlation between the amount of marketing and advertising and positive reviews you got and how bad the movie sucked. Like, it didn't go 1-to-1. Good reviews stopped meaning good movies. Good marketing stopped meaning good movies. It's like marketing and paid for opinions became the norm to cover up the mistakes of a bad movie. That's my take on it. That's my opinion. Maybe you feel the same. Maybe you think I'm completely wrong, and that's totally okay. That is the point of today's show. I am not always right. You are as right as I am if you have an opinion. So when I look at how things have transformed towards the gaming industry, and think back 5-10 years ago when you started seeing these commercials that showed these incredible clips of Halo or any shooter game or any action game, and then you buy the game and you get it home and you find that half the shots you saw in the commercial were actually the cutscenes, not even the playable game. And to me, I found that very aggravating. I'm not trying to take away from cutscenes. They enhance the game. They make it better, give it more depth and more fun. But I want to play those scenes. I don't want to be teased by things that I can't actually do. In movie advertising, it was like showing you the best clips from the movie, so when you went and saw it, you already saw the most important or funniest moments of the movie. Now let's move forward in time. The Big Four. I think of F1 2017. The amount of time they spent marketing and promoting that game. Endless. I saw every car, every track, every livery, every aspect of the career mode long before I got a review copy, which by the time I got it still had some issues. It wasn't the release version, but even upon release, there were problems with the game, despite it being very good. And I'm going to say that right now. I think compared to the other generations, this one has the highest hope. They still have a few issues to fix. But by the time I got it, there was nothing new for me, even as a reviewer, let alone people out there who might have bought it and it took another week or two till they actually saw it. Is this fair? Is this what we want? Does that marketing make sales so over the top? I mean, they're a company. They have to make money. But how much money do they spend marketing? How much more money could have been put into production? How much more money could have been put into physics, bug fixing, UI, interaction, all of the aspects of the game, but how much budget was sucked out of that to go to marketing? And of course, they're looking for a return on investment, ROI, on that money spent, but does that take away from us? Now, that's with F1 2017, which just came out, so we can actually formulate our opinions on that. Moving forward, Project Cars 2. Actually, before I get to Project Cars 2, I want to just bring up this one shot that I think really makes my point fairly well. And in this shot, what we can see is a million incredible scores for F1 2017. When I look at those scores, I think, wow, this has got to be the greatest driving game ever made. But then, when you look at the names of the companies who are doing it, do you see any real sim racing companies? Do you see any real opinion of people who know one driving game from another? As much as I love IGN and they're the world leader in this kind of stuff, do they know anything about driving games? And when I question whether they do or don't, well, just look at the score that they gave this game. Was it deserving of that kind of score? So as you can see, that is kind of the thinking. And this isn't here, I'm not here to bitch out these companies on the quality of game. This is not the topic today. The topic is, do you believe the hype? When you hear and see these scores, do you really think that's going to translate into what you're looking for as a sim racer? So I'd love to hear some of your opinion. I'm seeing a lot of people kind of in agreement with me. I mean, I can tell you that I do have a different perspective on it as well. Yeah, so Jake, you're talking about how F1 is built for on a controller. How it is on a controller, you have zero direct control of the car. And I agree, it wasn't built, in my opinion, to be a great sim. And we can talk about arcade, simcade, simulation. Obviously, we weren't expecting full sim, but I do expect to be able to use any wheel on the market, plug and play, and get a great experience. And El Bucho says that list of scores is made of gamepad players who know real sim racing experience. And again, if I'm making a driving game, isn't it critically important that game appeals and is liked by people who play driving games. If I'm going to make a baseball game, I want it to appeal and be fun for people who play and want to play baseball games. If I buy a driving game, I think I get to have certain expectations of the title, certainly like controller support and plug-and-play ability and things like that. And again, I'm not trying to single out F1 2017, because again, Project Cars 2 is on the way. I've seen every car, every series they're associated with. I've seen all the graphical changes. I've seen so much of this game already that outside of feeling its physics, do I really need to? As a sim racer, and coming off of the experience of Project Cars 1 or off of F1 2017 even, what are my actual expectations? And Mike, I think that's very relevant, and that gets back to the importance of proper review sites. Years and years and years ago, I know they still do it, but Siskel and Ebert were the guys to turn to. If they said a movie sucked, don't bother seeing it. It's going to suck. If they said it was great, if it's the type of movie you're into, you're probably going to find it great. And it's very important, I think, to have those actual reviews. And when you look at that Codemaster score with not a single sim racing site, not a single sim racing person on that thing giving it a great score, you've got to ignore the hype, in my opinion. Hiring Ben Collins for P-Cars, what does that mean? I mean, I understand what you're saying, but what does that mean as far as making the game good? Do you think he really had input to the physics team saying this feels good, this feels bad? Or do you think it was just another level or phase of marketing? Gran Turismo and Forza, I think, are so locked into what they do that we can go with certain expectations of what we're going to see. But they're still marketing the heck out of it. Every day I turn on my computer, I see the next 10 cars coming out of Forza. 700 cars or so total. Do I really need 70 of those between now and its release to keep my appetite for the game? Or are they going to actually make me lose my appetite for the game is my question. So Smooth is talking about pro drivers. Yes, they had a lot of pro driver input. And does that translate into anything for us? I mean, if you played Project Cars 1, I am so much more optimistic for Project Cars 2. I've actually played it quite a bit. There is a review in the works as well. So I'm not getting into the review right now at all. I'm just talking about the marketing and everything we know about the sim or game. When they start promoting and talking about virtual engineer and showing it in their controlled environment, well, that's great. But just like the cutscenes and the commercials of a more gamey title, are they just showing us what they want us to see versus how we're actually going to use it and want it? And Jay Duval, you just chimed in on what my other take on it is. At the beginning, I said the word gateway. These are gateway drugs, and bad wording, I need a better analogy. But it is through Forza, Gran Turismo, and F1 2017 that moms buy their sons these games because they're top sellers, so it's a no-brainer. Everyone buys them even if they're not a driving fan. But maybe these are the games that spark that interest in sim racing. So it is critically important, and I actually applaud them on the amount of marketing they've done on that hand, because I want Gran Turismo to sell 10 million copies. I want Forza to sell 5 or 10 million copies. I want F1 2017 to sell the millions of copies that they potentially can sell, because that might make sim racing fans, but it might turn some people off as well. When you talk about F1 content, you come down to licensing. So it's hard to say. As long as that license is locked up by Codemasters. I mean, I put a video up on a Codemasters show that got pulled by Formula 1 because it had the Formula 1 video splash that's in the game on my video. Their little robot found it, and at that point, they pulled the video. That just shows you how strong the Formula 1 license is and how you can get away with nothing. You might be able to get the license for a car, but the entire series, I doubt it very, very much. Bandera, anybody who has credibility in our industry, I'm not going to name the other sites, you probably know them yourself, but any credible person who has... if you're watching this show, you have a better opinion than IGN on those games, is my opinion there. Elliot Skier talking about the Porsche Cup car being spot on. And Isakuda, I agree with you, and I've seen that from other drivers, like Glenn McGee talking about the Mazda MX-5 and iRacing, the exact shift points, exact brake points, turn-in points, balance of the car. Is it one-to-one? No, but certain exactness that we could depend on. So when it's that kind of opinion, yes. But has Ben Collins done that? Have other drivers done that in the case of Project Cars 2? Bugability, I mean, I actually don't depend on F1 2017 to provide me that ultimate sim title, but the bugs that I saw were ones that actually prevented you from doing the whole development and the things that progressed your career properly, which is exactly why I turned to that game. Yes, Daniel, I completely agree with you. I think there is a lot of pressure on Project Cars 2 to deliver a better gameplay, better physics, and put themselves more into that level of Assetto Corsa, iRacing, and R-Factor 2. I think they are trying to leave the Simcade behind. But if you really think back on the real progress of that company, all the way dating back to... not Race Pro, but Simbin, they've had a roller coaster ride of arcade to sim, in my opinion. Yes, Faxoli, Gran Turismo got everybody into sim racing, I think. And JamTube, what you're talking about, as far as F1 getting into other titles, Assetto Corsa R-Factor 2 are the most likely because they'll be done by the modding community. It'll be illegal, but it'll be small enough that they're not going to police it. It can't be done by somebody making money. If you're making money on their license, the deal's off. They're going to hunt you down. Yes, Bandera, that is a huge thing that is changing in this industry. Also, when you talk about the marketing, a lot of this is done internally, whereas 10 years ago, these companies had to turn to third party to really get their exposure. They were dependent on the reviewers. Now they're dependent on their own in-house marketing to lead to sales, and they are as frightened of reviewers as reviewers can be of giving bad reviews. And that is a problem. That is a real problem, and something that even when I review, I think we all know that I'm fair and I'm firm, but at the same time I'm very politically correct about the way I deliver a negative, and I usually look for some form of a rationalization for it when I can. Simbin GTR was a very important title, and it is really one of those sims responsible for getting us to where we are today. NASCAR Heat, yes, that's one that floats off my radar because my expectations as a sim racer are so low. Getting back to the gateway aspects, I need to cover that too as well, just to be proper on the show. Yeah, Grand Theft Auto gets wheel support. That is such a great point. And some of the driving games do not. I'm not sure if that 40 was like by the franchise, or I think 10 mil was the last version, but I wouldn't be surprised. It is the biggest selling title, and if you really know your history of the PlayStation and Polyphony and Sony and Gran Turismo, it even owned the PlayStation for a period of time way back when. It has been that influential a title. T300 RS is a great wheel. It is... in my opinion, the TX or the T300 are great wheels that will drive for many years at championship level. Are they the ends-all says-all to wheels? No, but they're better than a starter wheel. They're a good competitive wheel. Jake, I think that's a line that they walk. It's between sales, which is going to mean you need a mass appeal if you want to make big money. But somehow Gran Turismo does a very good job of that. iRacing or Assetto Corsa are going to have a smaller market. That's where it's going to really be a problem. Yeah, El Bucho, well, so, like, I have a copy of Project Cars 2. Somebody else is working on it for me. Hopefully we'll have some footage soon on that. And they're kind of strict about what they wanted. They didn't want opinion. And that's part of the deal you make when the agreement when you take the game. And that handcuffs you. So you walk into, whoops, I'm touching the table again, sorry. You walk right into that problem. And it's a little unfair. And it's a little different between hardware and software companies. Software companies are much more tight than hardware. A lot of ums here as I read what you guys are saying. Yeah, and that's the thing with IGN, and I saw it with Road and Track back in the day where, you know, Car and Driver, Road and Track, I'm not trying to single out all, their highest paid advertisers coincidentally started getting the best reviews or winning shootouts and things like that. I agree, Paul, and that's a fine line as well. Racing wouldn't exist without endorsement, so we have to be very careful there. My show wouldn't exist without a certain amount of endorsement or help from the community, mostly through sponsors. So I'll make no secret, R-Seat is one of my sponsors. I love the R-Seat rigs. When I did my review, I was very solid with some negative cons about the rig. That's my deal when I work with somebody, and that's why I'll always have a lower amount of advertisers than others, because my deal is you're not going to handcuff me. I've heard rumors of the TC700. I have not seen one. I've got the TSXW behind me. We know the TGT is on the way. And so we'll have to see about that. But one thing I'm going to come back to on the hype thing, and Keith, that's going to have to be for a different show. We're going to kind of stay away from just straightforward questions. Maybe hit me up on a race night or another moment for that. Or maybe we'll make Direct Drive one of our topics. Let me write that down. For future Saturday shows. But right now, I do want to stay on point. Getting back to Fanatec and what they've done, they made an announcement they were working on it. And then from there, everybody ran with their own stories. I saw mock-up photos of what it might look like. And meanwhile, Fanatec stayed pretty quiet and didn't make a big... They weren't releasing a close-up shot every other day or a new news blurb about it. They were silent until at Sim Racing Expo they made their debut. And it's still a ways off from what I understand. Go ahead and bring up a picture. I do have pictures. I'm sure you guys already saw these. These are actually pictures from Team Redline. So you can see it there, painted like a mule with the black and white paint job. One other thing that you can see, which is very nice, is that it's got the 918 wheel rim. So as promised, it's going to work and be compatible with all of the existing Fanatec gear, which is great. That is not the final case. I do have a video. So the three pictures are from Redline, and this is actually from Project Cars. And this is at their booth at Sim Racing Expo, so you can see it in action. I heard a few things went wrong at times with the wheel. I know Marco Masudo of Assetto Corsa played a little joke on Thomas with the wheel. But ultimately, you know, this is something that I think they've done the right amount of hype. I think they've done just the right line of letting us get excited and do a lot of talking for them. And I think the Fanatec Direct Drive wheel is going to be a success with the right price point. Absolutely. When you look at them still being the one-stop, a direct drive wheel, and being able to put a set of Club Sport pedals right into it, that could be really awesome. I drove the PC version, and I don't know how much harder. It is still very much on the Simcade level. I don't get that same feeling I get from others. You know, on a basic level, we have car balance, we have wheel lockup, We have turn-in grip, whether it's oversteer, understeer. We have a certain amount of throttle oversteer, we hope, on exit of corner. Certain amount of reaction from the bumps. Yes, they hit a home run with all those basic effects. It's that direct feeling of being in the car, the wheel to the car, when comparing it to R Factor 2, Assetto Corsa, or iRacing. That's where I think that there's a big loss or difference. Anyway, getting back to my other point on the topic, just to kind of bring things to a close, I, at this point, don't think it's been a disservice. I think the game's had a pretty clear path from the very beginning. And the marketing didn't necessarily suck so much money out that it took away from the game or sim that much. But it is getting to the point where it's starting to just bother me slightly. I just don't need my Facebook and Twitter feed blown up every day for 6 months out of a game coming. Tease me every week. Tease me every other week. As it gets closer, tease me more. But to just ruthlessly, just every day, another dev blog, another feature of the game, another driving scenario, to the point where I've seen everything. There'll be no surprises. Let it be Christmas when I get the game. Let me unwrap it and discover some things for myself. That's what I really want. When I see the hype, the part that really bothers me the most is that it's taking away from my ability to discover. Then again, if you watch my show, I do that as well, because usually I show you everything I possibly can about the game. So I guess I'm being fairly hypocritical on that point. But talking you, the consumer, I think it's a little different when you seek a review versus just following your favorite game or sim. So that is pretty much my take on the topic. It sounds like, for the most part, you guys are somewhat in agreement with me, and I haven't really touched on something where anyone's going to come running to the defense of the games, which I thought maybe one or two people probably would. Rimmon, that's a really good point. What is forcing me to watch or read? Nothing. And I could always unfollow, but I'm a sim racing guy. I'm a racing guy, whether I did this show or not. I would like to follow the companies that I want to follow. I would just like them to take it easy and not over-promoting. I mean, just like me with this show. I promote when I have a show, when I have something to show you. But I really don't actually just plug the show every day, any moment I can. And I feel like they are getting to that level. So, and you're El Bucho, you're going to have plenty of people who feel that way. You know, there's a really classic line, different strokes for different folks. And everybody has their appeal. Not everybody wants something to be totally hardcore in their gaming environment. You know, in the shooter level, if I stumble into shooters, I might not want the most extreme. That's not the case. But everybody also has their preconceived notions on what a game should be and feel like, or how difficult it should be. Some people get into an iRacing and say, there's no way driving a car is this difficult. So, you know, maybe those people are going to find Project Cars 2 exactly what they want. Their chocolate versus vanilla versus strawberry versus Rocky Road ice cream. Different strokes for different folks. Frederick, that might be next week's topic, actually, for the show. I haven't decided 100%, but we are going to pull that together probably in the next couple of days. Know what our topic for Saturday will be for the Sim Tunnel, just our open discussion on things. And Mark, no regrets on the Alcantara seat. It was the one that was sent to me, though. I didn't have to pay extra for it. I like its durability. It's showing almost no signs of wear, except for where my hands put me in and out of the seat is the only spot I see just a little bit of marking on it and a little wrinkle in the fabric. Steve, do I think iRacing is difficult? Yes, it is. It's of all of the sims, when you first drive it, it's hard to get a sensation of the force feedback till you're really dialed in. Once you get dialed in, I think it has some of the best force feedback effects as far as making you faster and driving the car. But it is difficult. I'd even say for some people it feels like driving in the rain or on ice compared to other sims. So I will go ahead and just take some open questions since they're coming, and I'm pretty much done with my topic. One other thing I didn't mention, actually, we're not done yet. The other thing I want to talk about is talking about two of the bigs, but F1 2017 now has their eSport Formula 1 championship, going to be acknowledged by the real-life Formula 1. That's a big deal. And Project Cars has already been part of the ESL and eSports thing. Well, I'm not going to say they're the low-end sims, but in this conversation, I've kind of put them there on the ladder. These are the sims that right now are being chosen for that level of competition, unless you're talking about World's Fastest Gamer, where they're actually looking for a great sim racer. I would go with the Thrustmaster over the G29 just in today, where I feel today. That's my honest answer to that one. We mentioned ARC Crenshaw. We talked about it very briefly. Yesterday I would have talked about it a little bit more, but at this point, it is sort of yesterday's news. Everybody already has seen those. It's all over Facebook, a million photos at this point. I did show the photos, and I did have a video from... These photos are from Team Redline. And then I also had a video here that's from the Project Cars booth there. So, there we have... Oh, and Max, you know, I don't know if I've done a single live show. I have my little noisemaker to put him quiet, hopefully. Greetings from Switzerland. Hello, Switzerland. Glad you're here. Glad we have a real international crowd. iRacing is very expensive. I saw your comment there on pricing, and yes, it is very, very good. I mean, very expensive. You can find various deals on iRacing. It's usually on the membership itself, not on content. This is the Sim Tunnel. It will normally be Saturday mornings at 10 o'clock Pacific time. YouTube live streaming was down yesterday and we couldn't go live. So that's why we were doing it today instead of that. And Rajin, I'm sure she did. I would have loved to have been at Sim Racing Expo, and I've had plenty of interviews with Thomas, and it's probably a good time to do another one. So, yes, a few things are in the works for Project Cars 2. So we will have some of that content coming this coming week. And Carl, I'm not sure which matchmaking system. I think we're talking iRacing there. And I think that is truly the biggest difference between iRacing and Assetto Corsa R Factor 2. Physics, we could argue all day long over who's better, and they're probably not that far apart. It's just a matter of which you like better. Quality of sim, same thing. But that matchmaking system, that iRating, the safety rating, all of that part of iRacing makes it so much different than the other sims. And it just blows doors when it comes to the ability to get in and race against the best without having to do any extra work. And yes, I will be needing a second opinion for VR if that is in fact next week's topic. Hello, Sebastian. See you there. And player, I agree with you. iRacing is worth every penny. And if you want to do it on the low end, you just be careful about what you buy. A lot of people go in and they're like, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. Then they find the series they want to run in and they bought everything else, not the content they need. Now they either need to spend more money and they have stuff they don't necessarily need. And Alicho, thank you very much. I appreciate your comment there. And El Bucho, there is not a best platform for under $3 grand. $3 grand, you're in the DIY world. Buy some actuators, find some software, build it yourself. You're not going to buy anything for $3 grand. There's no profit to be made at $3 grand giving you what you need. Carl, was that in our version of SRS, or was that a different league? And ARC, I agree. Project Cars 2, how their multiplayer works. Like, the overall matchmaking system, how you determine who you race against, how hard it is to find a good race, all of that is going to be a big factor. Ranking system, if it isolates you and puts you in the right grid, all of that kind of stuff could really bring that game farther along towards sim and that competition model that I look for out of a lot of games. Even if it's simmy or arcadey, I still want that. Hello, Netherlands. I'm missing some comments, so if I don't get to yours, feel free to enter it again. And buy according to that. Yeah, I agree with you there. What do you think? Curve monitor. I have not done a thing. Curve monitors, to me, correct me if I'm wrong, if I have 3 curves, it's not a linear curve if I'm not mistaken, so that's not going to make a clear arc. It's going to give me 3 arcs. I thought maybe the cool thing would be a curved in the center and then straight off the sides. Maybe I'm wrong, but I have not been gifted for review any giant curved screens. Hello, Spain. Awesome. We have all of Europe covered. This is great. Another one from Netherlands. Simpit, hello, hello. How are you doing? I think GT Sport will have some realistic aspects to it. Like I said, that overall balance, brake, lock up, turn in, oversteer, understeer, throttle, oversteer, pushing or understeer if you're too hot into the corner. I think all of that will be there and relevant. Hello, Germany. Vasaro. Yes. Hello, Vasaro. I'm not sure if you're Vasaro. I think that the CSL Elite is going to come in a lot less money than the TGT, so it's not really apples to apples, but you got a fine wheel no matter what. Talking servers, thank you. I appreciate the side conversation, helping other people out. That's great. Hello, Brazil! Yes, our first South American chime in. Thank you very much. I have not tried it. I'm going to go ahead and put that on my list. I need to. I am guilty of kind of ignoring that title right now. Hello, Sweden. Awesome. Awesome. Czech Republic. Very cool. Poland. This is fantastic. Thank you guys so much. I really, really love having an international crowd. I actually switched to the morning shows to be able to make it so that more people could be involved. Hello, UK. Paul S. Thank you very much. So I think that is going to do it for me. This is sort of... Yeah, this is casual. This is just us chewing the shit. Excuse my language. This is me talking with my sim racing friends. And at the beginning of the show, I talked about in real life, and Delicho, I'll look into it. In real life, my friends don't want to hear about sim racing. My friends here in the Southern California area, when I tell them about a new patch or new hardware, if they listen, they get a glazed over look on their face. Hello, Dubai. Hello, UK. The best place for me to talk about things that I care about in sim racing is with you guys, my Simpit crew. And I do have a lot of topics. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, sometimes they're entertaining, sometimes they're just my pet peeves or grievances. And I got to tell you, I've just been a little offended by the mass marketing, the paid for reviews, the handcuffed reviews that they put on reviewers, or even excluding proper reviewers from the list. So yes, am I talking from jealousy or being offended? Sure, there's a little bit of that in that as well, to be perfectly fair. Hello, Ireland. So I think that moving forward in the future, like next week, we very well might do VR. Is it the future of sim racing? And Scott here is in the stream, and he does some work with me. He's actually working on some project cars too, for all you to know. Maybe I'll bring him on. He's very strong proponent of doing VR. I'm still not sold on it, so maybe we'll have that discussion. Also, the question I really ask is this the future of sim racing? Not, do you want it and love it today? But that's something I think we will bring up on next week's show. And we'll talk about that in great detail. I would love to hear your guys' opinion on that kind of stuff as well. El Bucho, I have some content. So a couple of people, Mitchie Hoyer and Timo of Avid Chronic Racing, did some work and got me some footage. I'm actually downloading. I was downloading and I stopped the download to be able to do this show. So hopefully I'll have some footage of all of that, maybe some interviews as well. Hopefully next year I'll be able to go to Germany and do it myself, because that's one event that I'm dying to go to. And Sebastian, I hope you'll come in and tell us why next week. And ARC, you're not the only person. I've worked trade shows presenting VR in sim racing, and I've seen the general public and the percentage of people that love it versus hate it versus just have an issue or problem with it. And that is the question, Daniel. So next week, 10 a.m. on Saturday, will be a new version of the Sim Tunnel. Maybe I'll be able to get a guest in, so we'll have two people talking. You are the most important guest of all, because it's your opinions that I really, really want. What do you think why reviewers or even YouTubers are bending down to this? It's not our choice. If they don't give it to us, or they give it to us with a contract that says don't say anything bad or don't show anything like this, how am I to review or give you really my opinion on something like that? North Hollywood in the house, Southern California, thank you very much. VR on Project Cars is amazing. I've done it a lot, and it's really, really cool and fun. So that's something we will look forward to with the VR for sure. And I like VR, so when I go, I can tell you before we get into this that it is awesome. Yeah, good H pattern. A good H pattern is buyable. It's just they're very expensive to do it right. But think about what they're trying to emulate or mimic. Button boxes, see, and that's one of the things. Button boxes with VR. We have a lot to talk about on VR. And today's topic, I kept it very simple because it was one of my pet peeves. I just wanted you to see that I was willing to take the gloves off a little bit for the whole purpose of the Sim Tunnel. And we will talk about things that we have strong opinions on. And at times, this isn't a review. This isn't paid for. This isn't a moment that I'm concerned about being brutally honest. During a review, I want to be politically correct but honest. During this, let's take the gloves off and really go at it. Still not great. Well, we're going to have to just let it be, or, I think the sound will be adequate. If we can improve it more, we will, but at this point, unless anybody has a problem, as long as I'm not blowing people's ears out. I heard it was a little tinnier than I liked, make my voice a little higher than I'd like it to be. Hello, Germany. Totally different price point. I mean, you can almost buy three T300s for the price of a TGT. So if you're new to sim racing, I'm assuming if you're considering a wheel at a T300 level, it depends on how many hours of sim racing. If you put a lot of hours in, I'd get the better wheel. If you just play here, play there, tomorrow it's a shooter, tomorrow it's this, tomorrow it's that, T300 is a great wheel. Kobe, please join us next week with that opinion, because that's exactly what I think a fair amount of people will have that opinion. Thomas Superwheel makes a good H pattern, just to throw one out there. Not enough pixels, exactly. Yeah, and the Fanatec H pattern is a decent one. One of those guys who people love to listen to. Thank you, Carl. Somehow I want to get you guys in on the audio even. We'll work on that. We're going to evolve this show with its popularity. If things go well, it keeps moving forward. I love doing this show. So when you say people love listening, I love talking. I love doing this with you guys. And it's something that I answer a lot. Every email that gets sent to me, I answer. It's very important to me to have these conversations. I don't get to... My brother doesn't care. My brother could care less about sim racing. Huge supporter of the show, could care less about sim racing. He used to race with me and it was fun, but now just doesn't matter. Kobe, I'm on Discord. I'm looking into doing exactly that. So we're gonna move. We'll evolve this for sure. TH8A gets it done. Gets it done. At this point, others have evolved more, but they're all more expensive. All right, you guys, we're going to bring this one to a close. It has been fun. Never know how long these shows are going to be. It might be 10 minutes if I say it and nobody chimes in. It might be 2 hours if it gets into a detailed conversation. In the future, it might, next week we'll probably do that VR show. But maybe one week I'll do something like sim racing versus real life. Bring in a real life pro who also sim races. Do a little brief interview with them, and then move into our topic. Again, very inspired by Dave Despain and Wind Tunnel. I'm not going to even act like I'm not copying. This is as close to as I can get to his format, and it's a show that I always loved, and as a racing fan, I loved listening to everybody, not just Dave, talk about it. That's what made the show to me. That's why you're here, the Simpit Pit Crew, and a very important part of these live shows always, but even more so on the Sim Tunnel, where it's just about conversation. I have very little B-roll to show you. This will always be just conversation and ironing out certain topics. So I hope you enjoyed today's show. I want to thank you all from all over the world who joined us today for our first episode. Hopefully they'll continue to get even better. I will make some adjustments, see if we can improve the mic, things like that. But the important thing is we will be here next Saturday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. That's providing that YouTube comes through on their end. This is the Simpit, the Sim Tunnel. I'm Shaun Cole, and I'll see you on the track.